Hey everyone, Matt with UVI here, and I am really excited to take you through an overview of Attack EP88. Attack EP88 is an amazing sound library that will work inside the free UVI workstation or within Falcon. It is a recreation of a TAC electric piano. So what we've got here is a restored 88-key electric piano, classic style, that is prepared with a brass tack on the striking surface of the hammer to give it a brilliant and sharp attack on each note. And it's great because it's not really a sound effect. This is a really great instrument that can bring out the beauty and interesting overtones and harmonics of the instrument just a little better with a little bit more attack. So when you're playing some moving stuff in those inner voices, it's really going to come out. So what we've got here now with this layout, if you look, I've got the bottom half of the instrument, which is denoting sort of the electrical signal, the DI, the tube processing, recording the actual sound of the output of the instrument. And on the top, I'm dealing with the mic'd area of the instrument. So if I want to bring out those attack elements even more, I can turn on one of these mics. So I've got a stereo pair, I've got a mono, and I've got a contact mic for every single preset. So I'll just enable the stereo pair here so we can really hear it a little. And now you're going to hear those attack sounds a little more. And of course, it's completely configurable. I mean, if I want to, I can disable the direct signal and listen to just the electromechanical sounds. And you can raise it up to your liking and go ahead and mix it with the original signal. And you can configure that as you like. Now, of course, there's a ton of presets with all of these different things enabled already, and I'm going to take you through a few of those. Let's look at one now. So my first preset I'd like to call up, let's go in the classics category here, and let's check out Magic Stereo Full. Now, with this particular preset, we've got a couple of cool effects that it's taking advantage of. Right now that last one was pretty dry. So this one's a little bit more up front and in our face. As you can see, I've got the mono mic enabled already, so that's why it's standing out a little bit more right from the get-go. Now, I'm going to enable the tremolo. Tremolo effect is right on the front page. One of the things I like to do with the tremolo sometimes is assign it to a mod wheel. So I'll just take that depth and right-click the depth knob, and you can move anything on your MIDI controller to assign it. So I'll just grab that mod wheel really quick, and I can ratchet in my tremolo now. And then pull it out as desired. Sort of like a famous Latin jazz pianist that we all know and love. Really, really master of doing that. But let's keep going with this. So I'm going to go to the effects page and check out some of the other things that are making a difference. Now, you'll see right away, we've got two areas of effects, just like we had two areas on the front page. The top part, we're still dealing with that paradigm of the electromechanical and the mic stuff on top. And on the bottom, we're dealing with that direct signal. So it makes sense that for the bottom, we would see some effects pedals, just like you would see on using a guitar, if we were using this particular instrument with a guitar amp. So on the right-hand side, I've got a reverb that is in spring mode, and I could adjust the tone or level above it. Now, right next to it, I've got a nice delay pedal, so if I take those out, you'll hear a little bit of a drier sound, but add the echo and add the reverb, and I've got a nice ambient sound happening. Now, I can also go ahead and enable the drive to just give it a little bit of crunch. And while we're at that, why don't we actually add the phaser in here? So now I'm really having fun with that sound. And again, I've got the ability to switch up here and mess with the microphone's effects signal as well. So if I want the electromechanical stuff to echo a little bit, I can do that too. So I've got the ability to do both, which is really cool. All right. Let's go to another category. This one's called ethereal. So I'll jump down here and I'm going to load up Little Glass. This is a super fun one now because, of course, the sound design team at UVI is not going to let this stuff sit. They've got a lot of really intelligently and interestingly designed presets that really take advantage of this entire engine. That sure is ethereal. I find it a little haunting, so pretty cool. So now let's jump over to the settings page. On the settings page, once again, we've got mostly a split area where we're dealing with the electromechanical at the top and the direct sound at the bottom. We've got a lot of different options on this page, though, to really configure our sound. You can kind of see why this sound is the way it is. So first of all, the amplitude, the attack has been slowed down considerably. So it's interesting because we're getting the overtones and the harmonic content of that tack on the piano, but not the hammering metallic sound by taking out the attack a little bit. So it's pretty cool. Now in this middle section, we've got a bunch of different settings, everything from restricting or enabling the dynamic range to the pedal volume. So if you listen right now, if I hit the pedal a few times, you can kind of hear the pedal noise, but if I ratchet it up a bit, you can really hear that sound of the pedal noise. So that is completely user controllable, which is really cool. It helps you design these patches, exactly the way you want them to be. So let's take a look at this next thing now. Let's look at the wheel strum. So this is a really neat setting. There's a couple of patches designed that take advantage of it, but you can actually enable it on your own. So when you enable wheel strum, if I play some notes now, you'll notice nothing's happening. I hold them down, but then I move the modulation wheel. And it does exactly as you'd sound. I can actually create this strumming sound and strum the notes instead of arpeggiating them or playing them. So enabling wheel strum just opens up a whole new creative level for all of these patches. Now combine that with some of the stereo controls and you can have a lot of fun. So I've got stereo controls for both the electromechanical and the DI signal. I'll just flip it to alternate. So now when you hear me play stuff, every other note is bouncing back and forth across the stereo field. You can adjust the detuning here and you can bring a little bit of funky tuning to your sound through the stereo effect, but there's an even better way that you can really adjust the tuning coming up on the next page. I'm excited to show you that, so let's check it out. Let's load up another preset for that. So I'll go into Processed and let's check out Vintage Vibes. I've got Vintage Vibes loaded up. Let's go to the voicing page. And on the voicing page, we can adjust the voicing and the tuning of this preset. And you can do it on a per note basis, which is really wild. So the voicing is the position of the tine in relation to the pickup. You can determine how much of the overtones you're hearing versus the fundamental tone, and it really can alter the character of the sound. So with a shallow voicing, I'm getting a lot of overtones. I'm giving these pure overtones and a lot of that upper end harmonic content. Now for a big contrast, I'll play the exact same thing, but with the deep voicing. As you can hear, it's a big difference. You're getting a lot more meat in there. And of course you can go for the ideal voicing, which is a nice blend of the upper and lower end harmonic content. So that really gives you a lot of control, and you don't have to live with it all the way across the board. You can do this on a per note basis. So if you wanted to get a little deeper or shallower on, say, the upper end of the keyboard or just the lower end of the keyboard, you can do that. You can do it per note. And the same thing applies to the tuning. So with the tuning, of course, you've got your factory default equal temperament tuning. But if you wanted to, you could employ stretch tuning, which actually a lot of classic electric pianos, even in their factory specs, recommended that you switch it over to a stretch tuning. And that's where the upper end of the keyboard is going a little bit sharp and the lower end of the keyboard going a little bit flat. So if you listen to the octaves, for example, in the middle, they're a little purer, and the octaves at top are a little further away from each other. And it really opens up. As you approach the outer ends of the keyboard. So, of course, that's up to you, whether that's going to work with your other instruments in the band, but you can do stretch tuning. You can do stretch tuning with an offset to sort of trend sharp or trend flat, which is totally up to you. And you can even do a honky-tonk tuning, which I'm sure is going to bounce up as kind of a random smattering of, yep, whoa, look at that tuning. Sort of an ill-maintained old keyboard. So you can kind of get that effect and then ratchet it back a little bit if you want to. The cool thing is that you can draw in the curves with the mouse. So you don't have to click one at a time. If you want to just sort of squiggle around a little bit, just to give it a little bit less, not quite as much, you can totally do that and get mini honky-tonk. The flexibility is there for you, and it's really great. So you have the power to get some really authentic sounds out of this instrument, but you also have the power to get some really ethereal sounds and almost synth-like in their quality. It's a really, really great and flexible instrument, and I hope you dug this overview of Attack EP88 from UVI.